here. Okay, so before he asked me to check, make sure you watch part 1. Okay, so this is related because I couldn't put it all here, and this is kind of fast. Okay, so we have Commander Astar, Starseed Space Travel, Galactic Guides. Okay, so a lot of you are Starseeds. Okay, you're not from this world. Okay, so if you feel a little bit alien, like you feel like what the heck is going on, you will never do what these people are doing, you will never be complicit, or you'll never be silenced, or they can silence you. You're chosen. All right, yes, chosens cannot stay quiet, cannot be complicit, cannot make money during a genocide. Are you kidding me? That's how you know. But you feel hope and you pray for all those people that you thought they could do better, right? That you learn so much from, but then you see them like not standing up for what they say that they believe, Christ and Jesus, and like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wait, what? Like today, it was beautiful scripture today of the Sunday Mass. It was talking about him. I think it's Mark 15 or something like that, where he's literally shows how brutal, like the exposure, like the written words and the scripture shows the brutal way that he was crucified and innocent, and even the Pilato, whatever his name is, asked him like, are you sure you're the King of Jews and stuff like that? And he would take it like, yeah. Like, a lot of y'all don't spit on Jesus' sacrifice like that. Yeah, exactly. Christ energy. Look at who. Archangel Jophiel. Joy, radiance, inspiration. Okay? So a lot of you have angels. When you focus on this, they're protecting the joy that you have, the nurturing that you're doing. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And I'm not saying like, you know, I love how that girl said it. Like, it's not about, oh, mental energy or fatigue boycott. Like, get the heck out of here. Okay, no, it's using that inspiration, the joy. Not only that, like, watch how the Palestinian, even though they're going through the worst situation you can possibly imagine, they still find joy in the little things. They're grateful for the little things. They're humble for the little things. A lot of y'all, you're learning a lot from this if you're doing the Ramadan, if you've been guided to do some fasting, not necessarily Ramadan, but fasting or any type of way, right? Addictions, any binge watching or binge shopping, or you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of you don't need a lot of stuff that you're buying and stuff like that, right? So all day, every day, therapist, mother, maid, nymph, then a virgin, nurse, then a servant, just an appendage, lift to attendance, so that he never lifts a finger, 24/7 baby machine, so he can live.
So a couple weeks ago, I posted a video about this photo. It was of a French-Israeli soldier posting a photo of him with Palestinian women's lingerie clothing behind him, and this was his dating profile picture. That photo is one of many. Harrods recently posted this article. We're not only here to fuck Hamas. How Israeli militarism took over online dating. Why are Israeli soldiers uploading photos of themselves inside Gazan homes or with Palestinian detainees to their dating profiles? This article is so revealing about the sickness in Israel and the Israeli mindset, and I'm going to just walk you through it. The article begins with saying Israeli dating app users between the ages of 22 to 40 that we have interviewed say that army uniforms and weapons are a hot accessory on dating profiles, and many bios make a direct reference to the ongoing war. It says here in quotations, I feel that girls are throwing themselves at me since I started my reserve duty. After I uploaded photos of myself in uniform, girls seemed more attracted and interested in me. It also gave us a topic of conversation. It builds a lot of tension. I feel that a photo in my uniform is like standing next to a Ferrari. It's a status symbol. But wait, the article continues to get sicker. Shai says he never had as much luck with women as he's having now during the war. Quotations. A friend of mine and I went to a cafe in Tel Aviv in our uniforms a few months ago. A group of girls came up to us and just told us directly that they wanted to sleep with us because we were soldiers. I couldn't believe it, but it happened again after a couple of days. I ended up lying to my commanders that I'm sick. I rented an apartment with a friend for a week so we could meet up with girls. I'll admit, we would have stayed longer if we didn't have to go back. A social media researcher from Hebrew University of Jerusalem said, they understand that their uniform is a costume, that when you wear it, your stock value rises. It doesn't matter what you look like or what you do in your daily life. This is another confession from an Israeli woman. Something about the mind-body connection with all the anxiety we have during this time makes having sex intimidating. The fact that I hooked up with a reservist reassures me that I'm significant to him. It's kind of an honor to be the girl he hooked up with before he goes back to Gaza. The article continues. Nowadays, there is a TikTok trend of soldiers broadcasting from the field showing us what is happening in Gaza or in the West Bank. It's kind of a new form of a thirst trap, but one that is trying to be more authentic. We are so grateful for their sacrifice that we are charmed by them, and more than that, we fetishize them. The article concludes with a professor from Tel Aviv University stating that the image of Hamas terrorists penetrating the southern border and the mass rape and sexual violence they committed were emasculating on a national scale. An act of penetration is perceived as a feminizing act of castration. Therefore, we see Israeli men overcompensating by externalizing their masculinity through acts of aggression and even revenge. It is dehumanizing photos of Palestinians, such as this one, that is being uploaded onto Tinder of Israeli men with their gun and their weapons, blindfolding Palestinians in the most dehumanizing forms, that is arousing Israeli women. Photos of Israeli men holding their weapons as they commit a genocide is being used to boost their ego and their masculinity, to look more like a man. The article basically suggests that Israeli men felt so emasculated after the attacks on October 7th that this portrayal of them posting photos of them dehumanizing Palestinians, of them, posting pictures of Palestinian women lingerie and blindfolding Palestinian men and showing photos of them holding their weapons in Gaza as they commit a genocide. This is all in an effort to boost their masculinity. And what's so fucking crazy is that majority of all the claims against Hamas on October 7th has slowly come out to be fabricated lies. The entire time that I read that article, I couldn't help but to think, imagine if Hamas or a Palestinian or Arab men or a Muslim man did the same thing that these Israeli men are doing on these dating profiles. The Western world would have hung them. They would have killed them all. They would have genocided them. They would have exterminated them. They would have exterminated every single Arab in the Middle East and said that they deserved it because they were savages and predators. The double standards and biases disgust me. It disgusts me. It disgusts me that professors can simply say that Israeli men felt emasculated after October 7th. So it's understandable that they are posting photos like this, that they are documenting their genocide because they're trying to boost their ego. It is disgusting. It is so disgusting. And what's even more disgusting is that slowly every day, the allegations from October 7th somehow slowly become revealed to us that they were fabricated lies. How New York Times and much of the Western media use these lies to galvanize the world into committing this genocide on Palestinians in Gaza. And that genocide continues today.
Let's talk about the latest reports coming out of Gaza of sexual violence being used against Palestinian women. Palestinian women and girls abducted by the IOF were beaten, forced to strip naked, and searched by Zionist male soldiers, not to include that some were threatened or actually were R-worded. Now, it's important to note that this is not new. It's part of a larger Zionist pattern that uses sexual violence against Palestinians. And this dates back all the way to 1948, when the Zionist settler colony illegitimately established itself on stolen Palestinian land. Since October 7th, the Zionist regime has abducted hundreds of Palestinian women and girls, including human rights workers and journalists. And while being held in captivity, these Palestinian women and girls are being denied food, denied female hygiene products, forced to strip in front of Israeli male soldiers, and brutally beaten. And there was at least one report of a Palestinian woman who was kept captive in a cage in the rain and cold without food. And while abducted, these Palestinian women and girls were not even allowed to speak to their lawyers, families, or even other hostages. Again, this brings us back to the larger Zionist pattern of using sexual violence against Palestinians. During the Nakba in 1948, R-wording Palestinian women was a part of celebratory ceremonies that Israeli soldiers would take part in. And then they would ethnically cleanse an entire village or town and use the threats of R-word as a means of coercing the Palestinians living there to flee their lands, telling the men of the town or the village that if they did not leave their land, that they would come back and R-word their daughters or wives. And this Israeli pattern of violence has only morphed to its most disgusting and dangerous form in the Gaza Strip. Do not be mistaken, Zionism is a fascist and violent ideology that has been used for the last century to justify the colonial oppression and subjugation of the Palestinian people. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all the daughters and mothers in Gaza and all the women of Palestine. May Allah protect all of its people. May Allah accept their martyrs. May Allah give them strength.
So you're most likely asking right now why Israel is continuing its genocide even though the UN has passed a resolution of ceasefire. So basically, the UN made this decision under Chapter 6. And Chapter 6 does not apply any consequences, any economical pressures in case of non-compliance. So if the UN truly intended to pass a true ceasefire resolution, they would have made it under Chapter 7. Because then, if the country does not comply, they'll have to face consequences in form of economical pressure or sanctions. So basically, Israel can continue on doing this genocide, committing atrocities against our people, and no one can hold them accountable for these crimes.
That's the energy. Okay, this kept coming up, Archangel Michael. Okay, so a lot of you have that archangel. You just have, remember, they can't intervene unless you ask. Okay, so if you're going through something situation, okay, any anxiety or any depression or anything like that, you have Archangel Jophiel and you have Archangel Michael. Michael is usually the truth, clarity, and justice. Okay, but absolutely protection. Okay, a lot of y'all, he's being protecting a lot of y'all from this situation as well. I asked also the archangels, they are working on this energy, protecting as much as they can. And I'm telling you right now, there's a lot, okay? A lot of you have legions of angels, archangels, and ancestors, okay? Especially when you're doing the right thing. This is the right thing. Be on the right side of history. Educate yourself. Decolonize yourself. Do not conform to the status quo. It's falling as we speak.
The scholar, I can see clear indications that the Zionist project is entering its last phase. It's the beginning of the end of this project. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable from from looking at it from the inside the Jewish society. It's imploding from the inside. There is no cement that holds the various groups in Israel together. It's not sustainable because I think young Jews all over the world would stop equating Zionism with Judaism. It's not sustainable because the Palestinian younger generation have a much better vision and ideas of how to push forward the liberation struggle. And it's not sustainable because of Israel's economic problems and the possibilities of changes in the region, and definitely in the way the international community treats Israel as a pariah state. However, these processes will take more time, but they will happen. So there is a kind of a dawn after this dark night, but I would be irresponsible if I would say that I know exactly how to end this night, terrible period today. But I do want to beseech anyone who's listening to us. It's working in a sense that you cannot see the full picture, but it works if it's relentless, if it doesn't stop, if everything we are doing.
What you're seeing here is a photo of two Palestinians in Gaza being used as human shields by Israeli occupational forces. These two men are being used as involuntary human shields being put in front of Israeli equipment and soldiers to try to dissuade Palestinians from resisting occupational efforts. That in and of itself is indefensible, but it's also far from the only case of Israeli occupational forces doing such a thing. In fact, taking Palestinians and using them as human shields was such a widespread and problematic practice in the Israeli occupational forces that the Israeli High Court of Justice had to prohibit the practice in 2005. That hardly stopped them, though, as the organization Defense for Children International Palestine points out, since 2000, they've documented at least 31 cases involving Palestinian children alone being used as human shields by the Israeli army. The vast majority of those cases, by the way, being after the prohibition had been ordered in 2005. And it's important to note that that data was taken as of May 2003. That number is likely increased and also doesn't include Palestinian adults and Palestinians who were used as human shields without that practice being reported. This practice results from widespread dehumanization of Palestinians amongst Israeli occupational forces. These forces see Palestinians as less than human and as such are willing to use them as nothing more than simple shields to protect them from Palestinians who might resist their occupational efforts. Palestinians have to live a life where they are constantly under threat of being picked up by Israeli occupational forces and used as human shields. And I think that's a reality we need to take note of because it's one they've been living with for decades upon decades. This, besides being a grave violation of international law, is just morally abhorrent and utterly indefensible. And it's yet another reason why decolonization and an end to Zionist settler colonialism across all of historic Palestine is so seriously necessitated. But yeah, just something worth thinking about. As always, free Palestine, and have a great day.
I'm going to say something because I think a lot of people aren't going to understand it, unfortunately, unless a white person says it. You understand the point of violent resistance. You understand this because you live in states like Texas and Florida where stand your ground laws exist. If someone breaks into your home and kills someone or tries to steal from you, you can shoot them dead and the state will support you. The law will protect you because that was your home and your family and your belongings. Then we watch an entire population, over 1 million homes destroyed, over 30,000 dead. Someone walks into a Palestinian's home, steals their house, kills their family, and then when they turn around and the only forms of resistance available to them as they scream and broadcast their terror to the entire world, standing by, doing nothing, is to pick up a rock or join a resistance group, and then suddenly they're terrorists and we want you to be free, just not that way. This is not about the violence. This is about white privilege. No, you were the bitch in the civil rights movement going, I don't believe in slaves, but my neighbor's grandfather was a slave owner and we have tea on Fridays. So if I take a stance on this, I might not get invited to Friday brunch anymore. Like, fuck you. Like, I'm not calling for violence. I'm saying that people can't say violence is not the answer when historically violence has been the only thing that moved the needle in any resistance movement ever. The point of protest is disruption. If you do not disrupt the people and systems that benefit from keeping everything the way it is, they're never gonna change that system. This is some 101 give a mouse a cookie shit, but here we are.
Palestine, oh Palestine, we hear your desperate plea that once again across the land your people can be free. Oh Palestine, your people live in.
Has anyone else noticed that the melanin deficient have quite literally aligned themselves with the devil, biblically speaking? Think about it. They've taken the Bible and Christianity as a whole, knowingly corrupted it, took it around the globe, indoctrinating and fear-mongering people into doing their bidding under the guise of being good Christians or good followers of Christ and not going to hell. And they're still using that tactic now. The Bible says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, does it not? What all have they done? They've stolen everything. They've stolen land, people, money, credit for other people's work, finite resources. Right now, they're actively stealing history by rewriting it and whitewashing it and eradicating anything that paints them in a negative light. Yet they've convinced the masses that petty theft and looting is worse than the atrocities they've committed. And even more audaciously, they've made Black people the face of crime in this country. They've killed millions of people in some of the most heinous ways, and they're actively defending the extermination of a certain group of people right now. They're destroying the planet, burning the Amazon, which are the lungs of the earth, killing us off to make more money. And then they go to the pulpit on Sunday and preach about how the love of money is the root of all evil. But look at what you've done. You play into those systems every single day. Those systems of marginalization and oppression, you play into them every day. They will preach that and then come up with another way to harm us for profit. Look at the systems that have been created due to greed. For-profit prison systems, this murderous healthcare system, predatory credit systems, Homelessness is being created because it's now being criminalized. So if you're homeless, it basically translates to slave labor. Because if you're homeless, you go to a homeless shelter, there's no room, they're going to kick you out. If you're on the streets homeless, which is now a crime in a lot of places, you're going to go to jail, where you're going to be forced to do free labor, slave labor. They'll say all of these things and then stand on these type of principles. And then so many of us still look at them as symbols of success. I don't look at them and aspire to be anything that they are, have anything that they have, because I know how they've come to acquire it. And y'all, this may be a little harsh, but it's time for everybody to grow the fuck up. Religious principles are keeping us back. And I'm not saying that everything in the Bible is wrong. There's certain things that I apply, but there are certain tenets of that faith that I'm not going to apply to my life because they don't resonate with me. When it comes to helping the poor, loving people, not judging people, the actual teachings of Christ, absolutely. But anything meant to hold me back or make me feel like I'm less than, I'm not keeping that. And we got to get real about that. Look at the way that the stories are set up. You're telling me that I, as a female, a giver of life, came from the rib of a man? That's a way to make you think that you came second when you didn't. Women are the givers of life. Female is the default. Every mammal, including humans, in their embryonic stage began as female. They may develop into male later, but female is the default. So how did you create me if I'm the reproductive blueprint? It's not true. And we got to stop believing stuff just because we've been told this since we were a child. If it defies your sense of logic and reasoning, throw it out. And I've always been able to do that. That's why deconstructing wasn't hard for me. As soon as something doesn't make sense, I can throw it away. That's how it's supposed to be, because that creates balance. Now, religious people will tell you that you're being lukewarm, but that's another tactic to make you push yourself into religious extremism, which isn't healthy either. You need to be able to think critically. Religion does not push that. It wants you to do the opposite. And you got to stop falling for that. Like I said, you don't have to throw away every single thing, but there are certain things that don't resonate and shouldn't resonate because they're false. Look at the story of Adam and Eve. The reason that misogyny and patriarchy are perpetuated and run rampant in this country is because of principles and stories like this. You're telling me that God gave Adam a specific order. Eve gave him the fruit of the tree that he wasn't supposed to eat from. He ate it knowing he wasn't supposed to, and now we all live in a world of sin. Women go through unbearable childbirths and labor pains because they're being punished. Punished for what? Adam's decision. So they've been holding us accountable for the actions of men forever. And those stories set that precedent. And so many women will peddle these stories, and I don't understand that. You're peddling your own oppression. They have reduced you to basically child bearer and slave. And you guys are okay with that. It's time to start thinking for ourselves, y'all. I understand that it's hard to break those shackles, but you have to. You don't have to throw out God. You don't have to throw out Christ, but throw out anything that's going to keep you in bondage. That's where we need to be, and we all should be on the same page with that. Too many of us have been conditioned to just take things in that aren't true. I've seen people on here battling or debating creationism and evolution as if both are backed by empirical evidence when only one is. The other is basically folklore. But they're arguing, and you can see the cognitive dissonance just whipping their ass because they just can't bring themselves to believe that they've been taught something that wasn't true. We're too old for that, y'all. We're too grown to be following things like that when we know better. So we have to do better, period. That's just what it is. And like I said, I don't know how people can look to these people, see the things that they've acquired, see it as abundance when you know how they've come to acquire it. Nothing about what they have or the way they got it makes me want it in that same way. And it's hard for me to want to share a faith with people who I know don't give a damn about me until they need me to be on their side. Is that not what we've been seeing our entire lives? We got to get it together, y'all. Anything that doesn't make sense, throw it out. You're not being lukewarm, you're being balanced, and that's where we need to be.
Every accusation is actually a confession. Here you see the country that shall not be named using literal human shields. Not only is this more evidence for the war crimes they are committing, but this is also another indicator that they are losing the ground war in Gaza. Every time they actually face combatants from the Palestinian resistance, they lose. They have been losing not only soldiers, but their expensive military equipment such as tanks and their transport carriers. And this is exactly why they have these civilians in front of their tanks to be used as human shields. That's because they're both cowardly and evil.
This impunity has allowed Israelis to think that the things they're saying are normal. It is a truly pathological society. It really is, because what has allowed to proliferate in the public sphere is so racist, so appalling, and really grotesque to most of us in the world. But it but it's become normalized. So so I think for most Israelis, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, yeah, we should kill all the babies. The babies aren't innocent. Or, yeah, we need to turn Gaza into a parking lot. And yes, we need to wipe everybody out, and we need to starve them to death. I mean, these are all things that they have been saying. We need to starve them. We need to make sure that there are conditions that would spread disease, that would make our job easier. I mean, these are all things in the public sphere. Even countries, that want to do things like that, maybe, know better than to say this out loud. But Israelis do say it out loud, and they say it a lot because it's normal in that society.
You and others have used the word genocide to describe what Israel is doing in Gaza. However, there was no genocide in Gaza on October 6. Isn't Hamas to blame for what is happening to the Palestinians?
You can blame Hamas for whatever you want, but again, this is a kind of a distraction of the real issue. And if the word genocide bothers you, we can use other words. How about too much killing? How about too much murder? Would that be like a better word to describe it? Because this whole thing about wasting people's time, about finding definition that doesn't mean anything, it's just like really counterproductive. I don't know what's a genocide. Is it like 50,000? Would that be considered a genocide? Is it 35,000? I mean, what is the threshold where we can start doing a genocide? And you can blame Hamas all that you want, but like I find it very hypocritical that you have the Prime Minister Netanyahu bragging about financing Hamas in 2019, the Likud party meeting, and then they come here and cry about Hamas. Hamas is a product of inhuman conditions, and when you treat people like animals, you shouldn't be surprised if they revolt against you as animals.
But this is the first time I've ever heard that there's a need to condemn. And say, yes, but of course they're suffering, but first we need to condemn. Are we out of our minds? Condemning the resistance of the people who are being oppressed and killed, subjected to genocide for 75 years? Are we out of our minds? Are we out of our minds? Are we outside of our minds when we let this ridiculous narrative take hold and spread, and then participate in it, nodding our heads like sheep? Oh, and by the way, yes, there is a genocide going on, and it's terrible. But first we have to condemn the Palestinians who dare to stand up, Palestinians who have shown an ability to sacrifice and amounts of courage that, as far as I can remember, are unprecedented, facing this horrific, horrific oppression. But what are we really talking about? Again, we've heard lists and lists and lists of crimes committed by the State of Israel, lists and lists of crimes against humanity. And there's always seems to me like there's a little bit of a sense of surprise, a little bit of shock, a little bit as though this was somehow not predictable. What we are seeing now in Gaza was not only predictable, it was preventable. And we did not prevent it. The previous massacre in Gaza was predictable too, and that was not prevented. And we can go on and on and on and on back 75 years. Because what could possibly be expected from an apartheid regime established after a massive campaign, open massive campaign of ethnic cleansing, massacres, and the beginning of a genocide that is still going on today? What could possibly be expected? That was the founding moment of the State of Israel. Close to 1 million people forced out of their land. God knows how many were massacred. And that was the beginning. That was 1948. So now we're shocked. All these lists and lists and lists and lists. There's nothing new about them. Except this time the numbers are higher. This time the numbers are, even by Israeli standards, it is shocking. But this was predictable and this was preventable. And every time something happens, we rise, we protest, we demand, and we forget. Instead of standing there and demanding an end, an absolute end to the oppression and the killing of Palestinians, an end to it. Not a ceasefire to it, an end to it. A political solution that will guarantee the lives, the security, the safety of Palestinians. That has never been discussed. I don't recall it ever being discussed. That guarantees need to be put in place. Guarantees need to be put in place for the life and security and the safety of Palestinians, because Palestinians have been living in a state of terror for 75 years. Not just now, but for 75 years living in a state of terror, whether they're in the West Bank, whether they're in the Gaza Strip, whether they're citizens of the state of Israel or so-called citizens. They have been living in a state of terror, and they still do today. Granted, the level of terror has increased since October the 7th.
Okay, I've already said this a billion times, but continually in light of what's happening at the Al-Shifa hospital, Israel, the Zionist state, has no right to exist. It never had a right to exist. It needs to be dismantled entirely. Not reformed, not a one-state solution, not equal rights. This is a violent occupation, a violent settler colony. It is in no circumstance gets to exist. These IOF fuckers, they need to go. Every single settler needs to go home. The entire state needs to be completely dismantled. And unfortunately, we have a pattern after resistance fights off colonial aggression. These structures get reformed into neo-colonial states where the modality of domination is not direct military occupation, but it's financial through the IMF, through dependency or development programs you see with the US right now, establishing a colonial port. And when the resistance ultimately fights this off, we can't just have an instance of neo-colonial rule. I would really recommend reading Walter Rodney, really recommend reading Kwame Nkrumah, about neo-colonialism. Like, the US does this shit everywhere. In the Global South, they do it. You want to talk about Palestine, the border with Egypt, they do it in Egypt right now with Sisi, through dependency, through the IMF. We need to learn about this shit. We need to know what we're up against. You know, we have cop cities all across Turtle Island, occupied Turtle Island right now, which are paramilitary sites, which are set to fight urban warfare, domestic terrorism, essentially people saying you can't continue to dominate indigenous people, black people, the earth. I mean, they're just going to do to us what's happening in Gaza now. This shit is so violent. It's also not new. This is how empire has been operating since the Assyrian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Roman Empire. Empire is an iterative process. They all study, they learn from the other empires, and then there's resistance, and then they develop modalities to iterate and to continue to dominate and exploit. None of this is new. Today's Purim, story about living under Persian Empire. Same shit. Mordechai wouldn't bow down to Haman. Haman felt threatened with power, tried to genocide all the people and take all their money. Tried to pay a mercenary army to do it. It's so fucked. It's so evil. It needs to be composted and dismantled entirely, and understanding that power is power is power. And the way that we hold power relations all the way down to the nuclear family, at the smallest scale to the biggest scale. Cis heteropatriarchy, anti-black, anti-blackness, ableism. This This is what these things are scaffolded upon. It's so fucked. So the takeaway from this video is that just screaming into the void is not going to do anything. And we need to organize, we need to read, we need to understand neocolonialism, we need to understand cis heteropatriarchy, we need to understand coloniality, we need to understand power. Being able to root in understandings that compost power, not just replicate it. The goal is not to be on top of power, it's to completely shatter and dismantle and compost power. Understanding that the relations of the state are the relations interpersonally, moving out of coercion and domination and hierarchy, moving towards consent and choice and mutuality and relationality. Just don't even know what to say. It's fucked. It's fucked.
They're not even dead yet, guys. Like, what the f***?
Love the Gaza Strip. We can't just take a whole strip of land and say Israelis can't live there. That doesn't make sense.
I'm speechless. Like, I don't know which part's the quiet part that they're not supposed to be saying, because they sure as is just saying everything. Oh, hold on. We cannot just take a whole strip of land and tell me I can't live there. Wait, hold. This isn't Israel. She's from New York. Like, you understand. This conversation is happening in New York.
Would you live there? Of course. By the beach? Oh, for sure. Yes, my husband's also talking about building. He has a yeshiva, Talmudic Institute here. So building a branch in Gaza. We have lists already about 500 families that are willing, on the drop of a hat, to just move into, we have North, Central, and South Gaza, and people are going to start building towns. We have names of the towns, we have where we're them, it's already being planned.
This isn't a political post. Do you understand how much of a bitch the United States is, where we give our tax dollars to another country so they can go bomb the shit out of women and children so that boomers from Williamsburg, Brooklyn can have a summer home at the expense of eradicating an entire group of people? Like, you work 40 hours a week. You can't even afford a home. You're barely covering rent, but you're giving your tax dollars to boomers so they can have a summer home on the beach.
Again, according to the most respected measure of these things, 100% of the population in Gaza is at severe levels of acute food insecurity. That's the first time an entire population has been so classified. We also see, again, according to, in this case, the United Nations, 100%, the totality of the population is in need of humanitarian assistance.
I don't know why we're softballing this shit. We are starving an entire group of people. First time in history. You know, Sudan's at 70%, Haiti's at 80%, Afghanistan was like 68%. Like, this is the first time where an entire group of people is suffering famine. Oh, bonus. Do you want to see what triggers settlers like her? Hold the up. This girl graduated from college and decided to wear the kippah that her parents gave her, right? No caption, no nothing. Just like, hey, mom and dad, I graduated from college. The APAC of Australia comes out to like call the entire college anti-Semitic because they took the picture of the student. Like, talk, I can't. Like, Snowflake of the Year award for sure.
I want peace. I just want the cycle of violence to end. I want peace. I don't want people to get hurt. I understand that people need to resist and that they want liberation, but I just don't get why they need to resist so violently. Okay, babe, I got you. I'm gonna stop you right there. There's really nothing revolutionary about wanting peace, okay? We all want peace, except those of us who are addicted to conflict and our trauma, I guess. But more importantly, I want to address the cycle of violence, because it's not a cycle, it's a spiral. And a spiral has a source. And the source of the thing doesn't come from resistance to the thing, it comes from the thing itself. Simply addressing or condemning the byproduct of what that source has produced doesn't get us anywhere. So let's make this really simple. Let's say that somebody smacked you across the face. You could probably be a good Christian about it a few times, turn the other cheek, once, twice, 10 times, 30 times, 50 times. Eventually, though, you're gonna make yourself a little whip. You're gonna start flipping the tables. Now imagine there are some bystanders and all of a sudden they were like, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing flipping tables? You must be a menace to society." Naturally, you're gonna be like, "Bro, did you not see how many smacks across the face I just sustained?" And then imagine, and this is gonna seem outrageous, you're probably gonna be like, "No way, this would never happen." Imagine they were like, "I know you were smacked across the face like 100 times, but do you condemn the fact that you also flipped tables?" Bruv. Fam, are you disingenuous or are you stupid? Because even if we were addressing toddlers in a primary school classroom and one kid hit another, the first question would be, why did you hit him? Why didn't you use your words? The first inclination of any genuine, critically thinking human being would be to ask why, would be to get to the bottom of this. Everybody who's out here still going, what about October 7th though? They're not trying to get to the bottom of it. They're not trying to prevent other October 7ths from happening, because the only way to prevent something from happening is to understand why it happened so that we can avoid it happening again. They don't want that. All they want is any crumb of a reason to justify their own hatred, their own bias. They just want to reinforce the programming. Do you know how many October 7ths, not only the watermelon people, but the entire global South has sustained over the past 100, 200, 300, 500 years? Why aren't you talking about it? Why aren't you doing your research? It's not like the info isn't out there. Do you actually care, or do you just need someone, anyone, to turn into a monster so that you don't have to face the fact that the monster actually is in you?
Okay? And be grateful to the Palestinians who show you the truth. You all needed it. Yeah, I can't make this up. Death, it's over. It's ending. Okay? Archangel Azrael, death and rebirth, transitions, life changes. Okay? So a lot of things are changing. Isn't it? That guy looks familiar. The Buffalo guy, what's that guy? What's the actor? The actor that advocates for Palestine. Yeah, it looks like him a little bit, doesn't it? The guy who played Hulk. I don't remember his name, but yeah, it looks like him. Okay, so we have prosperity, beauty, and fortune. Okay, that comes after. I'm telling you, a lot of you want the rewards right now. You want it right now. No, you're gonna lose a lot. That's the whole point. Good things don't come easy. Good thing, long lasting, don't come easy. Okay, so a lot of you need to get that in your big ass ego head. Let go of the ego. Okay, advocate for others. Doesn't matter. A lot of you, you're so like comfortable in your own fucking like it's weird.
Ramadan has been challenging for me this week, and I'm so grateful that every iftar I have more than enough to eat. I have the privilege to also eat something sweet or go buy something sweet right after. Okay, I have the privilege to eat suhoor. Okay, and then I get into the internet and I see Palestinians cooking grass and making it into a soup for everyone to eat. This is grass. This is grass, guys. And it's just like, it has made me even more grateful for what I have, but at the same time so pissed off, because this is a man-made problem. These people don't deserve to be eating grass. Nobody deserves to be eating grass. And it's not like this is a calamity that befell on them or some type of punishment. No, this is because another group of people believe that they are better than these people, and these people deserve nothing. So they take every blessing that these people have, from their land to their trees to their rainwater, everything, to take away their food and block food from entering to go to these people. They're cooking grass in this Ramadan. Like, wallahi, this is beyond wickedness. This is beyond demonic. Oh, the resilience of these people, honestly, like, hits me so hard every single day. But at the same time, I'm so angry. I'm so angry because this is not something that they deserve or should happen to anybody, especially such a rich and beautiful land of Palestine. They have everything, more than enough of everything. And they've been stripped away from all of it because another group of people believe that they're better than them. Please increase your prayers. Free Palestine. Liberation of Palestinians, and the downfall of the Zionist entity and all these colonizers, because this is absolutely insane.
Hi, I'm Diggity. Let's do a quick did you know? Did you know that despite the US abstaining instead of vetoing, this is not a good thing? Did you know that Russia tried to get the word permanent inserted in the ceasefire and the US vetoed it? Did you know that? Did you know that even if the US called for a ceasefire, it wouldn't mean shit unless we stop the uninterrupted flow of weapons to Israel every 36 hours? Did you know it was every 36 hours, uninterrupted? Because it is. Did you know that the reports that are coming out of Al-Shifa Hospital and Nasser Hospital are beyond fucking horrific? Like, unbelievable shit is happening right now. Did you know that? Did you know that despite the ceasefire calling for a ceasefire for the month of Ramadan, we're halfway through, so like what? Does that mean 2 weeks? 2 fucking weeks? Really? Did you know that almost none of this matters because Bibi has determined that not only following this is he not going to visit the US because he's upset, he's like big mad that the US didn't veto this, but he already said that nothing's gonna stop him. Did you know that? Did you know he said that? Do you know what that means? This is genocide, so it shouldn't be hard to figure out. Did you know it's been 170 days of genocide? Today, March 25th, is about 171 days of genocide. Did you know that? Did you know that there is a Zionist campaign of Israeli settlers who are determined to settle the Gaza Strip? They already have town names. They've got plots set up for settlements. They've already got it all figured out. They're just waiting to move in. Did you know that? Did you know that the U.S. passed a piece of legislation that says that we will not fund UNRWA until 2025? Did you know that? Did you know the U.S. is evil? Did you know that? Because the sooner you know, the better. The U.S. is fucking evil. Did you know that no matter how you try to justify over 35,000 people being killed, that it doesn't matter? Because the fact that you're trying to justify 35,000 people being killed is a sick notion to begin with. So whatever your justification is, I don't fucking care, man. I don't really want to hear what you have to say about fucking anything if you think this is justified. You didn't know that before, now you do. Did you know about the 3.5% rule? I did this one already. We're doing it again for those who didn't know. The 3.5% rule says that if 3.5% of a population takes a stand, that they can enact major change in their country. That's what the 3.5% rule is. Do you know how much 3.5% of the population in America is? It's 11.5 million people. Did you know that you can sign a strike card with the General Strike US? And once we hit 11.5 million strike cards signed, then action will be planned and taken. Did you know that? You should know that. You should sign a strike card. Did you know that you should sign a strike card? Got a little intense at the end. Anyway, that's it.
Now, why do I, as a Jew, as the son of a Holocaust survivor, as someone who has lectured on genocide prevention at Auschwitz, where dozens of my mother's family were murdered, why am I so critical of Israel and what is happening in Palestine? Because as Nelson Mandela and my friend and political mentor, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, said repeatedly, Israel is an apartheid state. And if anybody knows what an apartheid state is, it is Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. In fact, they said, Israel's apartheid is more brutal and more devastating than South Africa's was. And the reason for that is very simple. South Africa needed the cheap black labor force to run our economy. Israel doesn't need Palestinians as a workforce, and that is why they are slaughtering tens of thousands of innocent civilians, claiming it to be in the interests of self-defense. It is no such thing. So please, please, never forget what Nelson Mandela said. Our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people.
Pisces energy. We just had Pisces coming on. We're in Aries energy. Okay, so this is the full moon. What is it? Full moon in Libra, I think. What is it?
What you are looking at is a group of Israeli children at school at a Purim celebration mocking the killing of Palestinians. This is a group of children that are the future of Israeli soldiers. They will be future IDF soldiers, literally dressing up for a holiday as IDF soldiers, and one of them dressing up as a Palestinian, and all of them surrounding him with guns and pushing him and putting guns to his head. This is what Israel teaches their children. This is what is okay. This is why Israel will never be able to exist in peace with Palestinians, because Israel was born on this shit. Israel was born thinking that this is what was okay. This was the norm. This is Israel's peace. This is their peace. This is how they want to live. They want to live like this. And they can say all they want. Oh, no, we don't. This is how Israel was born. They went into the Palestinians' home. They stole it. They shot them for their homes. And they displaced them. They don't know anything else but this. And they're teaching their future generations the same thing. It's a vicious cycle. And it's not going to end until Israel is no longer Israel. And I'm not saying that the people in Israel don't deserve to exist. Of course they deserve to exist. The state of Israel and the ideology, the Zionist ideology, does not deserve to exist. This is not okay. This is disgusting. And this is happening at their educational institutions. It's disgusting. And I'm going to show you the video. This is sick.
Yes, full moon in Libra and the lunar eclipse in Aries, okay? There's a lot of being eclipsed out. A lot of us, we're being guided. That's why that decolonization is important too, because part of that decolonization, that work, that shadow work, that, cleansing, detoxing and purging, okay? And watching the truth, seeing the unconscious, okay? And making it conscious. You need to make it conscious. They need you guys not to be awake, and it's not supposed to. Now use your intuition, Pisces energy. Something is being shown in your dreams, okay? A lot of you stop idolizing influencers and celebrities and stuff like that. I'm talking to myself too. I need to let it go. Some people just don't meet those expectations. Or they can because they're just human, just like any of us. They're not perfect. But one thing is for sure is that we all have access to social media. We all have access to the internet. We all have literally the choice to advocate or ignore, right? So that clearly shows who you really are. Stop pretending. Stop being a fake ass person. Like a lot of you're idolizing and like, oh my God, you see, finally they say something. Finally they do something. Okay, good. Because they're being, criticized for not doing anything, not saying anything. They don't want to jeopardize their image, right? You care so much about your image instead of actually mothers and children and men and innocent civilians being massacred and genocide right now. That shows a lot of who you really are.
Do you know how much effort it takes to pretend not to notice an ongoing genocide for 6 months? It took a lot of people effort to turn away for 6 minutes. It took a lot of people effort to close their eyes and pretend this wasn't happening for 6 days. It took a lot of people so much effort to deny that this kind of brutality was occurring for 6 weeks. But 6 months? 6 months? How are you doing it? How are you deciding every single day to say nothing? How are you deciding every single day not to call a representative? How are you deciding every single day to avoid any kind of conversation? How are you deciding every single day not to do the easiest fucking thing, which is just resharing what other people are already saying about it? Resharing posts from the journalists on the ground. How have you decided for 6 months to pretend that the worst of human evil that we've ever been able to document and share on a mass level is occurring before our very eyes right now in a way that is disproportionately affecting children? How have you been able to spend 6 months shrugging this off as though it can't possibly touch you? It is touching members of your community. It's touching members of your family. It's touching your childhood friends. This is impacting the lives of so many people. The folks you walk by on the street, your neighbors, the people who go to the mosque right down the street from your synagogue, the people in your synagogue, the people in your church, the people at your academic institution. This really expands, it balloons to affect everyone because you can't watch the kind of brutality that we are being shown every day and be unaffected. Even if the effect is you having to toggle off your empathy, that is still an effect. Even if the effect is you having to do the cognitive blunting of pretending and faking it, that is an effect. You having to do work every day, to do labor, to ignore that this viciousness is happening before your eyes, that's an effect. And you have a choice now. You have the choice of continuing to pretend that you don't notice or just saying, I notice. I notice and I don't know what to do. I notice and I'm finding myself numb. I notice and I'm confused. Where can I get more information? I notice and I'm not sure what media is reliable. Someone point me to journalists on the ground. I notice and I'm hugging my kids tighter every night because I'm watching children be mass murdered. I notice and I'm trying to bring this up at Passover Seder. I notice and olives on the Seder plate are insufficient this year. I notice and I'm talking to my pastor, I'm talking to my priest or my rabbi or my imam. I notice and I'm talking to my parents, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, my siblings about what we can possibly do as a family. I notice and I'm reading. I notice and I'm getting to know the other people who are noticing. Because baby, it's been 6 months and there's no way that you don't notice. It's impossible for you to have not noticed. And it doesn't have to rip you up inside, but you do have to say something. Not only for the people who are being actively harmed, but for yourself. For your soul, for your spirit, for the maintenance of your belief that there is good in this world that we actually have the power to maintain. And if you've been able to choose not to do that for 6 months, I encourage you to ask yourself why and how. Who is that serving? It cannot possibly be benefiting you. It cannot possibly be soothing your soul. Your soul requires more from you. In mystic and ancient Judaism, there is this belief that one of the responsibilities of man, of humankind, is to prove our right to exist, prove our deservingness to exist by being righteous. 6 months of ignoring a genocide is not righteous. Frankly, I'm not even convinced that it's possible.
A lot of you, your heart is rotten as fuck. You need to cleanse. A lot of you, repentance needs to happen live. If you don't know what that is, you need to study it. This is art school. I keep saying it. Be part of something overwhelming. A lot of you, it is. This is overwhelming. This is not easy. This is why I talked to God first before I come here. I did my crying all night last night. I couldn't enjoy myself. I was trying to be there for my sister, and it was like, I was trying to It's not the same anymore. The world's not the same. And it won't be. We can never go back to normal because this is not normal. Okay? A lot of you check up your Pisces energy, your birth chart. I could be speaking with a Pisces. A lot of you need to learn from a Pisces, or some of you. Now, what's in reverse is spirituality. I knew it. They can't stand that for you guys to be spiritual, to be connected to God, to pray, because they're a bunch of satanic psychopaths.
This is my first Ramadan ever, and we're getting one of the major signs for the Imam Mahdi. Now, I believe your first Ramadan will always be unforgettable. I think it's a moment that everybody should experience, and when you do experience, you're never going to forget that moment. But what's going on in the world is absolutely crazy. Let me break this down for you. So not only on Eid this year is there a group of individuals trying to summon the Antichrist, but we're also getting one of the major signs for the Mahdi. Now, this group of individuals, their timing is not random. They're choosing to do this on Eid because all the shaitan are locked up. Now, that being true, they have to wait for Ramadan to end to do any kind of demonic evil practices. This is because the shaitan are locked up. They can't contact any of them if they're all locked away. But there's also a hadith that talks about the 2 eclipses before the Mahdi shows up. And the eclipses are specifically one for the sun and one for the moon. Now, depending on where you live, we had the lunar eclipse on March 25th. And on Eid this year, we're going to have the solar eclipse, and it's going to be accompanied by something crazy. So not only are we going to have the solar eclipse, the eclipse for the sun that's talked about in the hadith, we're going to have a comet that we can see in the sky with our eyes. And this is the exact day they're choosing to do the red heifer ritual. Now, I've been seeing way too many comments saying we shouldn't worry about what they're doing with the red heifer ritual because they're just trying to summon the Messiah. But let me explain something to you. What those group of people that I can't name are calling Messiah, Christians call Antichrist, Muslims call Dajjal. Now, before we start panicking and freaking out, there's a little part that's missing to the story. First of all, we've had the minor signs for the Dajjal system. So the Dajjal is broken up into 2 parts, the system and in the flesh. But there's a good chunk of the major signs that haven't quite happened yet. One of the main things is they need Dome of the Rock to fall. They need specifically the mosque at Al-Aqsa to go down. Now, this is something they've been trying to do for a very long time now, but they've never been able to pull it off. Because they know if they take down the mosque at Al-Aqsa, they have very limited time to do what they need to do. So once again, until Al-Aqsa goes down, don't panic, don't freak out. It can still be okay. Allah is the best of planners. Oh, it's most definitely witchcraft. This group of individuals that I can't name have a long history of witchcraft. All witchcraft and occult rituals require 3 main things to happen. They need intention, they need meditation, and an energy source. Now, what's great for us, we just have to pray. We don't have to go through all this goofy stuff to make minimal results. Now, let me explain the intention, meditation, and energy source that they're going to be using to try to summon the Antichrist. I'm not too sold it's going to work, but we'll still break it down. Now, their intention, pretty simple. They want to summon the Antichrist, they want to summon the Dajjal. Now I'm going to break down the meditation process. The energy source is where they're going to have some problems. So their meditation process is actually kind of powerful. They're going to be doing a group ritual, so they're going to use a lot of different individuals to try to summon up enough energy to make this happen. Now, the point they're missing within this group ritual, within the meditation process, is that the person who's supposed to perform the red heifer ritual has to be their Messiah. And while Al-Aqsa is still here and they haven't built the 3rd temple, it's impossible for them to even have their Messiah, the Antichrist. Now, for the energy source portion, where they've made some pretty big mistakes. Now, what they're supposed to do is take this cow and it has to be burned within this ritual. Now, the fire has to be lit with cedar wood. And then they must add 2 major things to this fire. One of them being oregano, the other one being wool that is dyed scarlet. And then after all that is done, the ashes from the ritual must be placed in a vessel of pure water. Now, I have the videos of the cow that they selected, and this is where their energy source is really wrong and it's kind of hilarious. They're out here looking for a red cow, and there's a little bit of a problem with that. Now, it's said that this cow has to be perfect, and they've found like 5 or 6 of them where it doesn't have any imperfections, any black hairs, like straight hair. There's a long list of requirements for this cow. One of the requirements is that the cow is supposed to be yellow, not red. They have a pretty serious mistranslation, and this is why we read the Quran in Arabic and learn the Quran in Arabic. With the mistranslation, it claims that the cow is supposed to be red, but if you study the Quran, it claims that Moses was commanded by a yellow cow. And don't worry, I got the verse pulled up for you guys so you can understand how ridiculous this whole situation is. Chapter 2, verse 69 of the Quran. They said, "Call upon your Lord to specify for us its color." He replied, "Allah says, it should be a bright yellow cow, pleasant to see." They didn't translate it from Judeo-Arabic. They used the wrong version of Arabic to translate it, and they got red instead of yellow. So looking at all that, my best guess is the red heifer ritual is just going to backfire on them really bad and just be a one-way ticket to hell.
I'm not going to do this one. I'm not going to make a video on this bullshit. Please look up the red heifer sacrifice so that I don't have to do this. I will, however, talk about whatever the fuck this was from CBS. Pay attention to this part.
The Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, among the holiest sites in Islam. Today, only Muslims are allowed inside, but that's not stopping Jewish activists outside.
Once you got, you started here.
6 days a week, Melissa Jane Kronfeld leads groups from around the world who defiantly pray. as close as armed guards permit.
It's not about the destruction of Islamic holy sites. It is about preserving this place and being guardians over the house of God for all people.
So you're happy with it where it is?
No, it's going to go 100%, but I believe
it's going to go.
It's 100%. Yeah, the whole thing is going to go. We have to build a temple.
Why is Chris from CBS calling these people Jewish activists? This white chick, Melissa, they call her MJ. Please find me a Melissa who is indigenous to the Middle East, is disrespecting and defying internationally recognized and accepted security law for Al-Aqsa and antagonizing Muslim security at Al-Aqsa. Is very proudly and publicly discussing how this sacrifice of the red cows that you are going to read about so that I'm not forced to make a video on it will lead to the destruction of the third holiest site in Islam, which is Al-Aqsa compound. Since when the fuck are people like that considered activists? Because that sounds like the very definition of terrorist to me, and also to the dictionary.
But it's been enough to incite numerous Islamist groups. Hamas has dubbed its October 7 assault on Israel the Al-Aqsa Wave.
It is literally called Al-Aqsa Flood. 6 months in, and they can't even get the title of this operation correctly.
And has the Dome of the Rock on its emblem. But this is sacred ground to billions of Muslims globally, not just Hamas terrorists.
Big surprise. Guess who's labeled the terrorist? The people who are making sure the actual terrorists don't act on the terrorism they have been publicly stating they will be acting on very soon. I am so tired, man, of the fucking media. I am so tired. We should be protesting outside their offices just as much as we are protesting arms ships and roads and bridges and outside our politicians' offices. They have such a massive role in manufacturing consent for the slaughter of my friends and family. This is terrorism. We very much need to normalize Jewish terrorism the way this world has normalized terrorism from every other religion. In fact, it was an act of Jewish terrorism in Palestine over 75 years ago that literally shifted the global public opinion and understanding of what terrorism is and how it can be used to garner international attention and support for a cause. And that act of terrorism was the bombing of the King David Hotel in Palestine in 1946. And if you don't know what that is, it was a famous hotel that was known for being a meeting point for British occupation forces to use during the British occupation of Palestine and discuss whatever colonizers discuss. The hotel was bombed by the internationally recognized Jewish terrorist group, the Irgun, which if you don't know who they are, they later joined forces with 2 other internationally recognized Jewish terrorist groups and formed what is today called the Israeli Defense Force. And the bombing of that hotel literally became a milestone in the evolution of the internationalization of terrorism. And the bombing of that hotel is also what led to the British occupation deciding it was time to pull out of Palestine and transfer power to the Zionist entity that we are dealing with today. So it has been a cycle, a nearly 8-decade cycle of Palestinians experiencing extremist Jewish terrorism that nobody wants to talk about because it makes people uncomfortable. But my people are dying, and that makes me more uncomfortable than your discomfort. When are we done with religious zealots running this world?
I'm not sure that I'm allowed to show this on here, but I'm going to do it anyways and hope for the best. So for quick context for everybody else that doesn't understand what I'm about to show you, there's a group of individuals that are trying to summon the Antichrist or the Dajjal. And after I show you the video, I'm going to break down exactly what ritual they're trying to do and exactly how this ties to the books that were removed out of the Christian Bible.
Okay,
Now, for all the Gnostics and all the Christians out there, I have answers for you. But just give me 1 second. The same people that demonize Isa or Jesus is hiding books from the Christian Bible. The original text of the Christian Bible had the truth in it, and it was the Quran. Now, what we have today is misdirection and misguidance to send people down a dark path to worship the same demonic energies that they do. Now, there's 2 parts to this. Please bear with me. So for the Gnostics out there and everybody who has studied the Gnostic books, I have some crazy news for you. There are research articles that you can find on the internet right now dating 1683. Right next to the location where they found those scrolls, which were ancient religious texts, there was these red ashes next to it. Now, right next to those ashes happened to be a gold coin. Can you guys guess where this gold coin is from? It's from the same people that had the funny hats on in that video. Now, I'm going to be a little bit more cut and dry here. the same people that are trying to summon the Antichrist right now, are the same people that removed these books out of your Bible. And the way they tried to keep them from you was doing a ritual to the Dajjal to try to protect everybody from going in there and entering that place and finding those books and rediscovering the truth. Every ritual is made up the exact same way. It is intention, meditation, and energy source. We have the evidence from the energy sources they used to set up that ritual, that evil demonic ritual for the Dajjal. Now it starts to get a little bit deeper than that. If this group of individuals are to do this ritual to summon the Dajjal, they have very limited time. They've spent a lot of money obtaining this cow. And if this cow gets one flaw on it, they can no longer use it. Now the exact date that they have planned to do this ritual is on Eid. For those of you who don't know, this is the last day of Ramadan. Now they didn't pick that day at random. This is a very, very specific moment. During Ramadan, all the shaitan are locked up. So any kind of demonic antichrist rituals they're trying to do can't work until Ramadan's over. So they're waiting for the exact time that Ramadan ends to be able to do this ritual. And if you don't believe me with this shit, go look it up yourself. Go find the proof yourself. Don't trust me. Don't take my word for it. Go look at the evidence. And like I said on the last video, these group of individuals have a long history of lying. So until Al-Aqsa falls, I wouldn't panic, I wouldn't freak out too much, but what they got going on is really weird. They've done a lot of steps required to make this happen.
Part 1 will clear that out for you. It will awaken a lot of you, expose the truth so that you can set yourself free. Because at the end of the day, don't mock Jesus like that. He died for us so that we can use our superpowers, which is our humanity and our heart and our empathy, and use it for the right reasons. Do not mock him like that. Use the spirituality for the right reasons. They are using it for the wrong reasons, and we already know that. We don't need any prophet or anybody to tell us that. Your intuition, God himself tells you. That's what the Pisces energy is here. It's all about intuition and spirituality, but they're trying to block it for y'all. And all the light workers who are in this energy, who's supposed to be in this energy already long time ago, this is what we're showing up to you. This is what we take the heat for, y'all. Spirituality to the ultimate experience, trusting your psychic knowledge, resulting from the indecisions or off or about. They're trying to make you indecisive, confused. You know God is not the God of confusion. He's the God of truth. Anything other than that, it's a bunch of lie, manipulation, confusion, distraction. And who is the one who always does that? The kingdom of darkness. This Satan and their fucking cult, which we already know is the Israel pretending to be Jewish when they're not. Do not buy into that shit because that's part of the ritual. You have to rebuke it in the name of Jesus. Every time someone tells you, oh, you're being anti-Semitic, you have to pray for that person. They have a demonic spirit. I'm telling you. Racist people also have it. White supremacists who trying to praise and trying to conserve their supremacy, right? Their comfortability. They have multiple ones. Some of them, they don't repent. They don't care. It's okay. Protect your energy from them. A lot of you, I would suggest protect yourself, your energy from a lot of people not talking about this. You understand me? Please, energy speaks volumes, okay? Action speaks volumes, okay? Watch people, observe people. Don't just take whatever they say. Even myself, I want you to educate yourself. Go do your own research. I did my own research. I come from the Most High. He gives me the channel message to confirm. I expose it to you so that you can wake up. A lot of you are awake. You're just afraid. Let go of the fear. Have courage. This type of work takes courage, and it only comes from the Most High. We don't gain anything in the physical by doing this. You know that, right? But it doesn't matter. We gain more in the spiritual. We get a clean heart. And at the end of the day, yes, there is reward, but later after the work is done. And maybe much later, it takes patience as well. Yes, a lot of you want rewards now. You want the recognition now. You want the validation now. It doesn't work that way. God doesn't work that way. And this is why I'm kind of effy of people that are getting so many followers, subscribers, and stuff like that, but they're not talking about the humanity, but the reality. They're not rooted and grounded into reality, which is why I feel like they have a mental illness. And I wouldn't be trusting those people that much. Me, I need to realize that heavy. Yes, there's some information that they have learned. Yes, but no more. No more. We can't. I can actually jeopardize not only my own energy by advocating or promoting someone who has already some type of karma that they have to pay for silence, because publicity and silence during this time has a karmic debt. I noticed that as soon as I posted, I start losing subscribers. I listen, and God right away stay quiet. And I knew, I was like, nope, I will never lose my connection with God just like that. I had to remove it from the community, her content. He asked me to put it on part 1. You will see it in the description below. He's still hoping that she actually talks about this. And all the other influencers, he still has hope that they will talk because they have nothing to lose. But they're already losing, though, when they're not talking about this, when they're not helping and amplifying the Palestinians, because they are not voiceless. They are very loud. Okay? Very loud. But are we listening, though? Are we listening to their voices, though? A lot of you, Father God says, trust your psychic knowledge and your intuition. It comes from him, okay? Start having faith and trusting, okay? There's a Cancer energy here. It says protect your intuition. Your intuition is being protected. A lot of y'all. This is also from history. This has happened before, okay? So a lot of you, you're here to rectify that. Yeah, the 8 is the year of karma. I know Unique Tarot talks about that. That video is in the description below. That one he asked me to put in part 1 and part 2. She talks about some motherfuckers that, you know what I'm saying, karma's coming. We already know. We know that, right? Just they're retaliating. A lot of you, personal power, the mystery of life, a major change. A lot of you are going through some major change. Spirit says have faith, okay? Some people have hidden tendency, okay? The large institutions are overwhelming events. I can't make this up. By the way, this is the karma deck. There's a reason why he put it. Something about the 5th house, okay? Wow. A lot of you, you'll be trusted. Something it says with the trust of a child. Do it dramatically. Bueno. Something about the 5th house. 5th house talks about finances or someone gambling or something, like gambling with someone's child or someone like that. A lot of you, they don't want people to have the power of love or investment, okay, or create anything, okay? Some of you have a hater, okay? A lot of haters. We already know that. All right, what else, Spirit? I'm going to tap into the Egyptian lineage. For some of you, if you can resonate with that, if you have, most of us do, but there's a message that he wanted to reveal through that. It's Holy Spirit, yeah. So it could be a masculine that I'm speaking of here, okay? A lot of you, we need to let go of this patriarchy, okay? That comes from colonialism and white supremacy, okay? Yeah. A lot of you, you have a masculine energy, your counterpart. This is the one that they've been trying. A lot of you, you've been seeing that in every tarot reader. There's always someone doing something. It could be large institution, organization. They know that you guys are a power couple. So there's someone here who has a lot of potential and gifts and talents, but they're not using it. They're not using it for the right reasons. They're wasting it. A lot of you, 10 could be significant. 1 could be significant, okay? Something about 1. It could be the 10th day, the 10th birthday. A lot of you says you have unfinished business with someone, okay? Something about the 18. Okay, Father God, Holy Spirit, angels. What else does the Spirit needs to know? I gotta go, guys. Okay, something about perplexity. Okay, so a lot of you, might think that the 6-6 is energy, but remember what happened in the recent day, the 6th day of the Sage or Al-Shifa Hospital. The 6-something, the woman, the pregnant woman, the 5 months pregnant, okay, and then doing atrocities in front of her, like doing stuff that, you know, that the people can help them and stuff like that. Let's dive deeper. There's something here, perplexity, okay, something about patrimony, okay. Some of you, there's someone that they cannot believe, like there's a lot of masculines right now, they cannot believe these people are doing this. Believe it. It's satanic as fuck. It's demonic. And they are all people who are called, just like there's like dark Christianity, evangelists, Jewish, Buddhism, they exist too. They masquerade themselves because they know it's fucked up what they're doing. It's wrong. but have a state that, the high priestess. A lot of you, some of you, you have a divine masculine, or you're the high priestess, or you're someone very intuitive, okay? A lot of you, you already marry in spirit with someone. Like, are some of you, you're single or celibate. You know that this is why you're not attracted to anybody. It could be this person too, like they don't find anybody attractive. That's for some of you. Others of you, spirits keep saying, trust your intuition with the high priestess here, or trust a high priestess or someone who's connected to God, who is doing this type of work. All of us, we're connected to God. We all connected to source when we are doing the right thing. When we have integrity, when we're in the truth, when we have pure intentions, when we do things, not because of what we can get, but also because it can benefit that person. When we're able to boost someone, especially someone who's or defend someone or be there for someone, even though it doesn't give us any rewards or anything like that, like put yourself in the situation of that person. And I'm telling you, once you have that empathy, you nurture your intuition, automatically discernment comes in. Automatically, yes, you get a lot of spiritual attack and warfare. That means you're in. All of us, we're not here to having a sweet ass time when nobody's free until everybody's free. Do you understand? That's the point. You can find joy and creativity and all that stuff while we're doing this, but expecting that you're just gonna live comfortably what literally massacres and genocide and things are happening. Are you fucking kidding me? Stop. What's wrong with y'all? What's wrong with the world? This is what I'm trying to say. A lot of masculine energy. What the hell? You're supposed to be here protecting, providing and protecting women. And that too, I can only imagine that person, that husband, watching and not be able, if they close their eyes, they're gonna be shot. So I can just imagine the impotencia in Spanish, like not be able to defend their wife because they have gun people and literally everybody affecting their woman. Can you imagine? For a lot of you, that has happened in a past life as well. So a lot of you got triggered as fuck. I know I did. I was like, oh my God. And there's no way I'm going back. There's no way I'm going to shut the fuck up. You can do all your little fucking kitchen spell, your little cult and your little stuff. I will never shut up. It's called liberation for everybody. If I'm not free, if the Palestinians are not free, the Congo and Sudan, then nobody should be free. Nobody should be at peace. It's called justice. And it's coming. That's the energy that I'm getting as well. High Priestess, continue doing what you're doing, especially if you're combining your perspective, you're able to balance energy, okay? You're loved, you're protected, okay? But there's a union here that they're trying to prevent as well with this person who you have unfinished symphony, okay? Yeah. There's this rebirth, this energy of rebuilding, renaissance, like someone coming back from the dead, like someone's going through an ego death. It could be this person or you, whoever is in this energy, okay? There's an obsession here. Someone's obsessed with someone. Yeah, this magic, moon magic that they're doing, it backfire. Great, we're talking about the full moon and lunar eclipse. That's your confirmation. It's in reverse. The 18 could be significant. Okay, or something happened the 18th of March. We talked about that energy as well. Yeah, something about slavery or something like that, or trying to keep someone slave or stuck or oppression. There's some pressure here. Domesticity, like something about, like, you know, domesticating someone.
Does anyone else find it eerie how up until the 1500s in Europe, the land was common, and so farmers would all raise their animals and collect and gather herbs until privatization occurred and a few started owning everything. And to kick these peasants off the land, they would criminalize their behaviors, witchcraft and petty crimes that stemmed from the impoverished conditions that had been created by the fact that their land had been taken from them. They'd be forced into hard labor, or they'd be sent to the New World as indentured servants, where the rich few used these desperate people to colonize lands that didn't belong to them through violence, disease, and a bunch of treaties that they broke. And now here we are, 500 years later, and once again the greedy few are buying up all the land, the housing, and kicking people out into the streets where they are criminalized again as homeless or low income enough that they're funneled into our military to go overseas for these colonial expeditions again. We have military bases in like 80 countries. Are we seeing a pattern here yet at all? And now instead of witchcraft, so many states are reducing female autonomy and demonizing and criminalizing women's rights. So it's either prison labor or colonial expeditions for the peasants. Are we seeing a pattern here? This playbook is nothing new. How we respond to it will be the question.
Field teams with the organization Euromed Human Rights Monitor have reportedly documented the field execution of 13 children near the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City at the hands of Israeli occupational forces. You heard that right. Israeli occupational forces executed 13 children by direct shooting in the Al-Shifa medical complex and the surrounding areas, with the Euromed Human Rights Monitor field team receiving identical testimonies about the killing and executions of Palestinian children between the ages of 4 and 16. Some of these deaths occurred during an Israeli army siege while the victims' families were inside of their homes, and others reportedly occurred when the victims attempted to escape via routes that the Israeli army itself had designated as safe after forcibly evacuating them from their homes and places of residence. There is no way to interpret that news that does not immediately lead to the conclusion that Israeli occupational forces are targeting and murdering willfully Palestinian children across the Gaza Strip. But truthfully, that's something we've known for a while, as Palestinian children make up more than 1/3 of the victims of Israel's crimes in the Gaza Strip since October 7th, accounting for 14,405 of the 40,156 total dead. It is a cruel reminder that Israeli occupational forces are not discriminating in regards to which Palestinians they are targeting in Gaza. They are attacking men, women, and children, the young and the old, because their goals are causing the maximal possible suffering for Palestinians in Gaza and ultimately the liquidation of Palestinians in the Strip. It is a genocide occurring in real time, and reports like this are further evidence of just how horrific it really is. But yeah, just something we're thinking about. As always, free Palestine. Assalamu alaikum. Until next time.